I've got Bielsa in 10th. I think a lot of people would potentially have him higher just because of the way that he's mentioned. Obviously, he got nominated for best coach of the year of 2020. But I think Leeds are in 12th. They got a good team, and that's a great position to be in as a newly promoted side. I don't think they're going to push for the top half. I think they're a level below the likes of Arsenal and Southampton and clubs like that. And I think to come in and steady the ship in the Premier League and obviously keep Leeds out of that relegation battle is a good achievement for a manager. But then I think obviously he's not pushing on to the top half in the way that the Benitez's Newcastle and Nuno's Wolves have done in the last few years, which are the high-profile clubs that have come up from the Championship in the last 5 years or so. So for me, I think I've got Bielsa in 10th just because he's done what needs to be done, and I think that's a good performance from him.
Yeah.
And Mikey, how about you?
I pretty much agree. I don't have him 10th. I have him 9th because I do think that 12th is a really good position for a newly promoted team, even though with Leeds, we all kind of expected them to come up and not worry about going back down. But it's one thing to say that and another to do it, and he has done a pretty good job. So defensively, they have a lot to work on, but I don't think they're awful defensively. I mean, they obviously have had their game, but I think they have potential to be a little bit more well-rounded the second half of the season. So he's been decent. I have him 9, but 10,
I also have him 9.
You have him 9 also? Okay. So we have agreeing. You're good. Agreeing on a good amount of stuff. I have Klopp 10. So I think you had him 11th, Leon, right?
Yeah, he had him 11th. I've got him 9th. So we've just swapped Klopp and Bielsa there. So.
Yeah. So I think Klopp, with the injuries, I know it's kind of like a meme at this point with Liverpool and the injuries, but they have had a good amount of injuries. So that's why I have him in my top 10. He's done some good things and bad things. I don't know. I can't stand Klopp anymore. Like, you guys kind of like after every single game, like if they don't win, he's complaining about something. I hate it.
No, yeah, I used to really like him as well, but he just comes off as a twat after every interview.
Yeah,
so
I agree.
I don't like him anymore.
That's the same with me. I used to be a really big fan of his. I mean, I've got him 9th, as you say, because of the injuries. Losing Virgil van Dijk, he's an almost irreplaceable player. So that's why I still have him 9th, despite the fact that they are underperforming, given how well they've played in the last couple seasons. They've only won at 9 out of their 19 games, which, when you think about that, is a massive, like almost regression from how they were playing last year. So I think I have him 9th. I don't think he deserves to be any higher than that. But because of the injuries that he's had, although as Amesy did say, the injury to Jota is, I put that on Jurgen Klopp. So I just have him 9th because he until a couple of weeks ago, obviously they were still title favourites. So based off the performance of the whole season, I've got him 9th.
Yeah, I've got Bielsa in 9th. I mean, as Mikey said, for a promoted club, being in 12th, I think it's a good achievement. Obviously, they're shipping goals massively, but they're playing really entertaining football. And I think their squad does contain a lot of, I hesitate to use the phrase, but bang average players. Like, you've got players like Liam Cooper, Alioski playing, and I don't know if my Leeds mates are going to slander me for saying that, but I just think a lot of their players aren't that good for how well they're performing in the league. So for that reason, he's 9th. He's doing a good job. Although losing to Crawley 3-0 was pretty embarrassing.
It's embarrassing.
Bad. Another reason I had Klopp 10th, not that that's like super high, but I think we also have to remember that he is the reason Liverpool have like these such high standards, and that even though they are 4th right now, I mean, prior to his arrival, that would have been people would have considered this season to be a good season for Liverpool so far, just where they are in the table. So I feel like we are a little bit spoiled with how dominant Liverpool have been the past 2 years. So that's why I don't have them too low, because even though they've underperformed this year, they're still like a good team.
It's exciting this year though because you haven't got Liverpool, Man City just dominating it. You've got more than 2 teams in the title race.
Yeah.
It's much more interesting for me at least.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there are, even if Everton win their couple games in hand that they've got on United, they're only going to be 2 points off United at the top of the league. So there are a lot of clubs in and around the title race this season. Even if you might say clubs like Everton don't have the consistency to stay in the race, it keeps it exciting for this second half of the season. And I definitely agree. This is probably the best title race or the most open title race that I can remember in the last 5 years or so.
Yeah, definitely.
I've got Jose in 8th.
You have Jose in 8th.
Yeah. I know you had him a bit lower, but I mean, as I said earlier, it's mainly due to the fact that they're in the League Cup final, which of course we don't know if they're going to win or lose, but they're doing all right in the league. They're in a League Cup final. You've got Harry Kane. He said he was going to turn him into like a superstar, and he has been unbelievable this season. Probably the best player in the league. Well, in my opinion, he is the best player in the league this season. And I think part of that is due to how Mourinho's playing him and how he's dropping deep and out, almost like a false nine, which I think Jose does have to be given some credit for. So yeah, that's why I put him 8th.
Yeah, that's fair. I have Sean Dyche 8th actually, which is high. I know it's high, but I don't know.
It's high.
I look at Burnley and I'm like, this team should not be in the Premier League. Like, and that's no offense to Burnley fans at all, but like the players they have, they just look like a championship team.
Yeah, that is true.
I feel like we all think of Burnley right now, and even though they are like 16th or 15th, maybe, like nobody's really concerned about them going down just because Sean Dyche. Like, we're all confident that he'll keep them up. And yeah, so I think he hasn't done an amazing job because obviously they only have 17 points maybe. But again, they're going in the right direction. They just beat Liverpool, obviously. And I think he gets like the very best out of his players. So
interestingly with Dyche, they've just changed up their ownership in the last couple of weeks or so, and I agree that the Burnley squad is one of the worst squads in the league. But so it should be really interesting to see if Burnley progress under this new leadership, if they're going to get the investment that they need, because I mean, I can't think of any high profile signings that they've had. I think the summer signing of theirs, which comes to mind, was Dale Stevens from Brighton. So
what a stinker, yeah.
So I mean, I do understand why you might have Dyche that high, but for me, I just can't warrant having him that high just because of their dire points tally, which is the same as Steve Bruce has with Newcastle, who I know both me and Mikey had in 18th. So I couldn't personally have him that high.
No. Who do you have at 8?
I have Jose as well. So yeah, for me, I agree with Amesy in the way that it's the transforming Kane almost into a false 9 and then allowing Son to play. Son has now a much more central role than what he had against Pochettino, which has had Son scoring a lot more goals and utilising that conversion that he's so lethal. Son is, so he converts almost every chance he's given. I think he's got the highest conversion rate in the league. So I think for me, he has changed this Tottenham side into a better team than what they were at this point last season. As Amesy said, they are in the League Cup final, and I think also their defence is actually fairly mediocre when I look at that back four. So when I think that they're pushing teams like Liverpool and they are pushing the top 4 with players like Eric Dyer, Serge Aurier, even Alderweireld is all right, but isn't quite the same level as some of the set.
So you were talking about Mourinho when
Guardiola.
Yeah, Guardiola.
I was kind of waffling, but basically they're in all the competition still, which is good, which is why it's quite high up in 7th. But I do think points wise they're underperforming because the way Liverpool have been playing, the amount of points they've dropped, you would have thought that City would be able to capitalise, and I think they should be clear at the top by now with the squad that they have, especially when you see United at 2 points ahead with, in my opinion, with much less quality and depth in their squad.
Yeah,
that's why I've got him 7th rather than any higher.
Did you say who you had 7th, Leon?
I have Ralph Hasenhüttl 7th. I think I think Southampton have looked a really good outfit this season, but I think they've been a consistent top half team. Well, and apart from last season where they had that weird slip up at the start of the season, but he pulled them back to a top half team, and they're not really. They don't look like they're progressing that much this season. I don't feel. There was a period where it looked like they were going to get the Europa League positions, but now they've won one of their last 5 in the league. So for me, I mean, he's done well. He's done really well to be in and around Chelsea, Arsenal, who are underperforming this season, but to be in and around the top half and is a good achievement for Hasenhüttl. And he's got Southampton playing nice, attractive football. So for me, 7th, I think, is as far up as I can have Hasenhüttl under the current circumstances. But yeah, I've got him in 7th.
I have Carlo Ancelotti 7th. I think ours probably end up going to be similar from like 5 to 7. Maybe I'm wrong, but I have him 7, which is a good ranking. I think he had Everton playing really well at the start. And what I'm like impressed by with him is that Everton did have that dip in form. I want to say it was like mid-October through like mid-November. And I feel like past Everton teams, they would have just kind of folded and continued to play before, but he really has them bouncing back from bad results and playing well. So the only reason I can't put him much higher is, I don't know, my top 6 managers, I think they've done a really good job. Not that Ancelotti hasn't, but I don't know. This is all the top 7 for me was really tough.
It is
I think
hard.
it's interchangeable, that this top 7. I'm pretty sure we have the same top 7. Am I right in saying that?
Yeah, we all do.
So I think that this is where we'll see quite an interchangeable list actually, just because, as you say, everybody has done quite a good job in the.
I've
got Ancelotti a lot higher, which we'll obviously get into.
So do I actually. So we'll see how high we have him. But
just like one more point to make on him, I think the reason I have him the lowest out of the 7 is because I really think the players Everton have are really good. I think they should be like finishing top 6, top 7 this season. Although James, with him being out, that's definitely hurt them. So he's done a good job there maintaining their form with him out. But I don't know. I think Everton have a really good team. And obviously, they spent a lot of money last summer to make sure of that. But yeah, I'll let you guys go with your top 6 now.
Yeah, my next 3 in particular were really hard to do, but I've gone for David Moyes in 6th. I think he's done a really good job. I mean, West Ham fans might say he should be higher, but then again, they're probably the same fans that hated him, wanted him out last season because they are incredibly fickle in general. But I think he's done so well because their problem in recent years have been, I won't say mainly, but a big problem has been their fullbacks. They've had Creswell and Masuaku at left back, who neither of them can really play in a flat back 4, and they haven't really been able to solve the right back problem since, well, Zabaleta was too old, Frederick was too young and inconsistent. And what Moyes has done is obviously go to a back 5. He's brought in Kufal for the right-hand side, and he's gone to a back 5, which allows both Creswell and Masuaku to play. Obviously, Masuaku's injured now, isn't he?
He's out for
the most part of the season. You've had Creswell left centre back and Masuaku left wing back, which brings the best out of both games because Creswell isn't exposed. Masuaku can get forward more, and Kufal's been brilliant. So I think that's really helped you push forward. So now you're 7th in the table and doing brilliantly well.
Yeah, I mean, something I want to quickly mention on that part is that the back 5 was the strongest system that we had for the start of the season. But in the last 6 or 7 games, it has been a back 4, which is one of the reasons I have Moyes slightly higher is just because he's been able to adjust to the Masuaku going for surgery and go into a back 4 and still keep that defence quite tight. I mean, we've conceded less goals than like Chelsea this season, who people will praise their defence, and we've conceded the same amount of goals as Liverpool. Obviously, they've lost 1 less than Leicester and less than Man United. So that defence is something that he's really improved, as Amesy said.
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned Kufal, but also Thomas Souček, just 2 brilliant signings that have made you so much more solid. And also Souček, it's obviously a massive goal threat going forward. It's almost like Moyes has looked at how successful he was at Everton with Fellaini and just gone, I'll have Souček. Because, I mean, that's like an archetype. They're very similar players. Just win everything in the air. So yeah, he's doing well.
In 6th, I have Pep Guardiola. It's just a little bit above where Ames has him. I mean, for me, I don't have a lot more to say than what Amesy said about him. For me, he's doing well. He's got his team firing. Obviously, they're in fantastic form at the moment, and they're my favourites to win the league this season now. But they haven't been throughout the whole season. And I mean, you would have thought if you were a City fan and someone showed you the points totals of all the other clubs at this stage of the season, and told you this is the points total, you'd be absolutely over the moon, because City have been much higher on their points than they are at this stage for the last few seasons. I'm not sure maybe about last season, but definitely the couple seasons before that. They would have been hoping to capitalise on Liverpool's poor performances. And
I think you just have to take into account that because of COVID, I think the season's been different in a lot of ways. And I think that's why a lot of teams' points scores have been much lower, because they've lost big players because they're self-isolating and stuff. Yeah. So I think that's why teams haven't been able to get into the swing of it and just been able to really dominate like we have seen in previous seasons.
Which benefits clubs like West Ham, who don't need quite so much of or it just opens up the games against the big teams they're more easily beaten, and that's where we're picking up points, as are Everton and as are Southampton, teams like that, and Villa.
Yeah. I also have Pep at 6. I don't really have much else to add. I think, like you guys said, he's done a good job. You wouldn't say he's done an amazing job, just given that City have dropped, at least at the start of the season, we're dropping a lot of points. But obviously, I think we can all agree that they're probably the favorites right now. I don't know if y'all would agree with that.
Yeah,
but
they're my favorites.
I put my money on City.
Yeah.
All right, who have you got? What are we up to? 5th?
Yeah.
Go with your fifth place.
I'll start because I think you put him 7th, Leon. I have Hasenhüttl 5th.
Yeah, I did.
So do I.
Yeah, I think they've not fell off recently, but they've kind of returned to what we have expected they would be like recently, Southampton. But you do have to remember at the start of the season, they were looking like one of the best teams in the league, aside from when they lost to Palace 1-0.
Yeah, the first game of the season.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm pretty sure Southampton had like 75% possession in that game, and
probably, yeah. I mean, I think he's got the best out of a lot of players. Like, obviously, Ings was great last season, but he's also continued that form. He's managed to get Che Adams playing really well.
Yeah.
It pains me to say he's got Ward-Prowse playing brilliantly. He's even brought Walcott back. Vestergaard's been unbelievable.
Yeah.
And then Cole Peters is integrated really well. So I just think they're in a really good place at the moment. In terms of the football they're playing and the results they get in, they do look solid.
Yeah, I think the fact that you can look at Southampton and be like, yeah, that's definitely a top 9 or 10 team. There's no doubt that
exactly
shows how well he's done. Considering when they brought him on, I think the season before they barely avoided relegation. So maybe that was three seasons ago. But yeah, who do you have 5th? Yeah.
I have this is where I've got David Moyes. I mean, I'm going to heap the praise on here just because I've reaped the rewards as such. As to be able to watch a West Ham team who doesn't look like they're going down over the last few seasons. I mean, Amesy did actually mention a few good points about how he stabled the ship. And I mean, to think that I have Craig Dawson starting in my team's back 4, and we've actually conceded 1 goal in our last 5 games in all competitions, with him starting every single one of those games is honestly baffling. I mean, last season it was a pain to watch Issa Diop head the ball into his own net every couple games, and it was honestly insane. And Amesy did say he's looked at his Everton side that he did so well with, and although they are very different players in game, the set piece threat that he trained Leighton Baines into whipping those balls in for his big players, like I think he had Sylvain Distin at one point, Fellaini, big players who score goals, and Cresswell has that same threat from the set pieces. And he has been defensively suspect over the last couple seasons. I mean, obviously he's improved a lot under Moyes this season, but I mean, as Amesy mentioned, there is a slight fickle edge to a lot of the West Ham fans, in that last season they would have released Cresswell from his contract immediately, and now this season he's one of everyone's favourite players. So, as I say, he has got us firing. we are 7th in the league, which is I can't even believe it when I say it now. So that's why
I don't think you'll keep it up.
No,
I
agree.
don't know if that's controversial, but I think quite a few games you've won by a fairly small margin, which I think your goal difference compared to a lot of teams around you is quite a bit less, which I think in the long run you'll see yourself slip down a little bit. But you're definitely a very solid team this season.
I agree. Yeah, I don't think the consistency will be there. Obviously, something else that I want to add is the how thin our squad is. When you look at us, if we are to lose a centre half, if we are to lose Soufal or Soucek or Rice, you'll see Mark Noble starting week in, week out, which would be dreadful because we rely so much on the ability of Soucek and Rice to cover so much ground in that midfield, winning everything at the back and then driving us forward. And Mark Noble does not have the ability to do that. So if we lose any of these players to injury, our squad is so thin that you will see us drop. I wouldn't be surprised if we got some key injuries. I could easily see us finishing like between 10th and 12th or something like that, despite our good starts to the season.
Yeah, I think 10th or 11th is probably where I put West Ham finishing. And I have David Moyes number 4, so I'll just go into our top 4. You probably said most of what I had to say, but just to sum it all up, I think you can look at West Ham and think like he's getting the very best out of pretty much every single player in that team, bar maybe like Ben Rama right now. Like you can look at every player in that starting 11 and be like, yeah, that's the best they can be in terms of how they played the season. So yeah, I've got him number 4.
Yeah.
My number 4 is Dean Smith, Aston Villa. I mean, last season only saved from relegation by the mistake in the goal line decision making. To go up to where are they now? Like 5th.
They are 8th, but they've got 2 games in hand on most of the teams around them, and they're only 5 points off the top 4.
Yeah, so I mean, to go from, as I said, almost being relegated to being in that position is brilliant. I think a lot of that is down to spending around 60 million, I think, in the summer, signing Watkins, Cash, Martinez, Traore, and then obviously Barkley on loan. But I do think Smith's getting the best out of those 5, and they've integrated really well into the team. I think they're playing really nice football, and there's a lot to like about their squad at the moment. And I think he deserves all the credit for that. Obviously, Grealish deserves a mention as well.
I also have Dean Smith, and I mean, I don't have too much to add from what Amesy said, apart from the fact that he has brought this club from the brink of relegation, and I had him down. I'm sure you boys at some point last season thought that they were down and out. So for me, that turnaround, given no matter how much you want to spend in the season to turn a team from a relegation outfit to a potential Champions League or Europa League contender is something which deserves a place high up the list. That's what I've gone for.
Yeah, and I'll kick off the top 3 also because I have Dean Smith as my number 3. So I also don't have a lot to add, but I will say that I think just in general, like I love watching Aston Villa. Like they're so enjoyable to watch, which is credit to him and credit to the players. I think they have a lot of likable players, although Grealish is diving and stuff like that. It's kind of annoying. But besides that, they're a likable group. Even their like defense as well. I think Konsa is really good. Maybe even better than Mings. I saw somebody on Twitter say that.
I think he's much better than Mings, personally.
I agree. I think he's better than Mings as well.
Yeah, so I have him number 3.
It's a good point. I think Konsa is probably the most improved player in the Premier League this season. I mean, for me, he is at least. And obviously, Grealish has just been so good to watch. I know, as you say, he can. I don't think he's a diver. I think he gets fouled a lot, so you expect contact and stuff.
There is one dive against West Ham, which is abysmal.
I do remember that one.
It is so bad.
Yeah, he is a diver, but he's great to watch.
Yeah, he is great to watch. I can't think of that.
I really like Ollie Watkins too. Obviously, he was so unlucky for like a stretch of like 6 or 8 games. I feel like he had the crossbar like multiple. I don't know. He's been so unlucky.
Against Palace, he was so unlucky not to score. Yeah.
He's definitely a joy to watch.
Against West Ham, he had a goal disallowed from his shirt sleeve was offside, and he missed a penalty in that game as well, which you could argue is luck is not luck, but he was very unlucky to not have the goal, which got chalked off from
the disallowed one. this that one should have been a penalty as well. He was
Yeah.
all over him.
Bonner had him by the shoulder.
Yeah, he's really good though. I think we can say that. So
My top three, my third is Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Because, well, I mean, it's a tough one putting him third because he's top of the league, so you do want to put him top, the top of the manager list. But obviously, they haven't made it through to the final of the League Cup, losing to City. They've just knocked Liverpool out, which is great. They're top of the league. He's doing a great job. I don't think the squad is that good, to be honest. Obviously, you've got some really good players in there like Rashford, Fernandes, Pogba, and stuff. But I don't think they're a squad that necessarily warrants being top of the table. So you do have to give the credit to him on that front, and particularly in how he's dealt with the Pogba situation when obviously Pogba's agent came out and said something about him wanting to leave. The fact that that got quite quietly brushed under the table when now Pogba started to produce some really good performances, I think is a credit to Ole's man management. I think there are definitely arguments for him being higher than third, but I just really like my top two, so that's why I've got him number three.
I also have Ole Gunnar Solskjaer in third. I think if anyone had told you that they'd be top of the league at the start of the season at this stage, you would have absolutely laughed. You would have laughed because their squad, as you say, isn't good enough, and in recent seasons they've just been performing so badly. And I know a lot of people didn't think Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was a good enough manager to take charge again this season. I think even at parts of this season, people, when they went out of the Champions League, I remember having a look at Twitter and there'd been a lot of people wanting him out. So to turn around a club like in the way that he has and to get the most out of, the way he's integrated Fernandes over the last year or so, that's a game changer to the team. He's played a system which really does utilise his ability to get on the ball and to score goals and also to pop up in places where he can assist players like Rashford, who is in fantastic form recently. So I've got him third, but I do understand that you could have him higher for sure.
It's a good point about getting the most out of Fernandes. I think that's why I put Hodgson a bit higher than you two. Obviously, we're playing a 4-4-2, but I think we're only playing that formation because our best player, Wilfried Zaha, by far our best player, he's just getting the best out of him, and that's just making us a more efficient side as we have been in previous seasons. And so I think Ole's done a similar thing with Fernandes in that you take your best player and you build your team around him, which he's done quite well.
Yeah, that's fair. I think we're in top two now, and I have Ole too. And like you boys said, pretty much the same thing. He has United top of the table, and their defense, especially, like it really is average, I'd say, in terms of the players they have. So that's really impressive. And I think just to echo what you guys kind of said, I think players really love playing for him. Like I think everybody on that team just likes him as a human being. And they like playing for him as a manager, and you don't always get that. So I've got him at number two.
Ancelotti there, quite a lot higher than you had him, Mikey. I think they're 2 points off Liverpool with 2 games in hand. So obviously they're doing brilliantly in the league. And I think a lot of that's down to obviously Dominic Calvert-Lewin playing so well this season. I think Ancelotti's has played a big part in that. Obviously, he's been with loads of brilliant strikers before, and I think he's teaching Dominic Calvert-Lewin how to play in that manner. He's scoring a lot more goals in between the goalposts, in the box. He's becoming a real predator, and I think a lot of that is, down to Ancelotti and players like Keane as well, just playing much better this season than previously. He's integrated the signings really well. Allen, Doucouré, James, even Godfrey. So I think they're doing brilliantly, and I can see them finishing strongly as well in the league.
I also have Ancelotti there. They are. When I look at the league, they are 6th, right? But they got 2 games in hand on a lot of clubs ahead of them, and they've won 4 of the last 5. Say they do win those 2 games, they'll be level on points with City and Leicester. So you've got, and that's why I have Ancelotti so high, because I feel he has done, as Amesy said, he's got Dominic Calvert-Lewin firing, scoring the goals which win you games, which tend to be scrappy ones. And when you look at Calvert-Lewin, his movement gets him in the positions to pick up those scrappy second chances. So I think, Mike, you were a bit harsh for my liking with having Ancelotti at 6th or 7th, I think. But Yeah, I think I can understand why you had him there, but for me, he's done a fantastic job at Everton to make him look like a real top side this season.
Yeah, I knew there was a reason why I had him 7, and I was just looking, and it's because Everton, they've lost to Newcastle, lost to Leeds, lost to West Ham, drew Burnley. So I think the reason I did end up putting him 7 is because they have been pretty inconsistent this season. Not always, but I forgot they lost to Newcastle.
They did go through a poor run, didn't they, in the middle of the season?
Yeah.
They started brilliantly, a bit of a poor run, and now they're back on track again. Which, as you mentioned earlier, you could see them in previous years just flopping after that, going on a bad run. So, credit to them for not doing that.
Yeah, I feel bad. I feel bad putting him 7 now because y'all have him number 2. But at the end of the day, like we said, we all had dissimilar top 7. So at least for me, it was really interchangeable. So even though I had him 7, I really wouldn't put him much farther down than number 1, even though it does seem like I would. So.
Yeah, I mean, the difference between 1st and 7th on our managers list is perhaps smaller than the difference between 7th and 10th. So under those, when you look at it like that, you may have him 7th, we might have him 2nd, but a win from Everton in their next couple games could move him up to 2nd on your list and move certain managers from ours down to 7th. So it is a very difficult list. Just obviously, given how close all these teams are on their points totals, as well as in their and how close the managers are on our list.
Wonder if we're gonna have the same person top.
Yeah, we all have the same. I'm surprised because I thought you guys would have somebody different, but we all have Brendan Rodgers number 1. So yeah. I'll let either of you two talk about him if you want.
Yeah, go ahead, Lil.
So I mean, for me to look at, obviously you lost Ben Chilwell in the summer. Wilfred Ndidi has been out. I think he's started 9 games this season. Ndidi out of the possible 19 in the league. So, and as Amesy says, you got to mention the cups. They are still in the FA Cup, given the round of 16. I can't exactly remember how far they got in the League Cup, but I don't remember them crashing out too early. But to be this close to the top of the league and this close to the end of the season is a fantastic achievement for Brendan Rodgers, and he's really got his team playing well. Obviously, Soyuncu's been out as well.
Castagne had a bit of an injury as well. He was out for a bit.
Yeah, and so when you look at the key players that they've lost, Pereira as well. The way he's brought Justin in to play on the left or the right hand side and become a real shout for the England team in the summer for the Euros. I mean, I really am impressed with how well Brendan Rodgers has Leicester playing, given these key injuries that he has had. I think to think that they're above Liverpool at this stage of the season, 4 points clear as well, having played the same number of games, is a huge achievement for Brendan Rodgers, and I think that's why we've all appreciated that with having him top of our list.
I think after they won the league, they wanted to kind of push on and become that top 4, top 6 club. And under Puel, it was kind of looking like they might be dropping down towards like that mid-table mediocrity again. Yeah. And I think Rodgers has just he's got them playing brilliant football. He's got the signings he wants. I think everything's just going great at Leicester, and now they are kind of becoming that top 6 club that they, I guess, wanted to be after they won the title. I mean, you have to say halfway through the season that they're also in a title race, as unbelievable as it may seem, because they're 2 points off the top.
Yeah, and another injury I thought of, that Belgian fullback Timothy Castagne. Yeah, he's been out for a while. I know Vardy missed a couple games, so they've really been dealing with the injury bug. And that's ultimately why I put him number 1, is because, like you guys said, he's Leicester right there at the top, or near the top, despite all the injuries. And I think even though they blew it last season and ended up finishing 5th, I think the reason the backlash wasn't as strong as it could be is because people realized that Leicester probably shouldn't really be there in the first place in the top 5, top 6.
Yeah, so, I think 10 penalties is a bit dodgy. I think they're leading the penalty list by far this season, which obviously helps them out. But got to win them.
Yeah, you have to be in the box to win them. So that's an achievement in itself, really. It's interesting that we had 2 common places on our manager list, the 1st and 19th, so top and bottom of our manager list are the only ones we all agreed on. A few got close, with maybe 2 of us agreeing and then the other one having them 1 place either side, but Yeah, that's a interesting.
Yeah, I think that's probably expected. I mean, they come as almost like segments. You as we said, the top 7, and you've got those kind of managers who are doing kind of as expected, like Dyche, Hodgson, maybe.
Yeah.
And then you've got the managers who are really underperforming, like Bruce and whatever.
Yeah, I think Ancelotti and I guess with me, Graham Potter, we really only had a couple of managers who we had very different places. So yeah, speaking of Indeed, I didn't get into a Twitter argument, but yesterday I saw one of Ndidi versus Declan Rice. I don't know if either of you
saw
guys
that.
did, but
Yeah, that would have been me actually. I was on it. That was me arguing Declan Rice, and I will stand by that as well, because every time, and I can only go off what I've watched. I don't like to go too much off other people's opinions. But this guy came at me with a stats per 90 comparison between the two players, and then proceeded to tell me that it's even more relevant because Ndidi's only played 10 games this season. And I was like, mate, it's per 90. That's what the stats account for. But yeah, I understand the arguments for both players, and I do think they're really close. But for me, Rice is so much better on the ball, and he's so progressive with us. He is that player which takes us from transitioning from defense to attack so well every game after game.
Your argument was Rice is much better on the ball than Ndidi, whereas Ndidi's only a little bit better defensively. And I saw someone comment on what you said. They said that Ndidi is a defensive monster, which is true. So I think there are reasons to say either. I personally prefer Rice. I think he's brilliant at driving with the ball. His long passing is great. So almost like the modern defense midfielder role, you need to be able to spray those long passes. Like in Man City's team, in Liverpool's team, they need to be able to do that. You see Calvin Phillips starting to do it, Rice at West Ham. So I think the kind of Kante role's dying a bit more, which is what Ndidi prefers to do.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Although just because I will argue Rice doesn't take anything away from the fact that I do agree that Ndidi is a defensive monster and a fantastic player. But I just think you require when you have Ndidi to have someone like Tielemans play alongside him, who's quite good on the ball and quite good at transitioning that ball from defence into attack. Whereas with Declan Rice, he kind of ticks both boxes there. So that's why I would go with Rice. And obviously, I watch him week in, week out. And as much as I like to turn off the bias, it isn't always easy. So even if I am being a bit biased, I do really
talking about bias. What do you think the score will be on Tuesday? Well, tomorrow. No, not tomorrow. Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Personally, I don't know. For some reason, I have a feeling it's going to be higher scoring than we think. I feel like, I don't know, I thought about it, and I can't remember the last time Palace were in a high scoring games between both teams. And maybe it's just me wanting it to happen, but I hope it happens Tuesday. I hope it's an entertaining game. And I think both teams are capable of scoring as long as Palace do come out and actually play to win instead of to draw. So I think that's a big thing is Palace's mentality, how they come out and play. But I know if I had to go with a prediction, I'd say 2-2 is my prediction.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes Palace, a lot of time you can tell within the first 10 minutes whether they're up for it or not. Like against Liverpool, it's like, I might as well turn the TV off. Whereas against Spurs or United earlier on in the season, you could tell we were on it. So that makes it a bit hard to predict. But I don't know. It's a tough one. I'll probably go for a draw. As well. Maybe.
Is it at Selhurst or is it on Tuesday?
I've got no idea. I should know this actually.
I hope JP Mateta gets his debut. That'd be good.
Yeah, I do
want to see him start.
It's at Selhurst Park.
Okay. I feel like Benteke will start and then he'll probably come off the bench if we need it.
Yeah, probably. I mean, that's the kind of Hodgson way of doing it. It doesn't often bring players straight into the team.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go 2-1 Palace. I'm going to go JP Mateta off the bench, flying header.
I absolutely hope not. I'm just wondering who it's going to be who scores the annual screamer against Palace. I mean, I know Haller scored.
You've already had it, man.
Yeah, I know Haller scored one, but I like to think we'll get maybe a couple every season. But for me, I'm going to say 2 on West Ham. We've been in such good form recently. We've conceded 1 goal in our last six games in all competitions. we've got and going forward, we look strong as well. Antonio's almost coming back to full fitness now, which I think could be a real issue for you at the back, especially if a player like Gary Cahill starts, who although he's a class defender, he isn't anywhere near the speed of Mikel Antonio. So I think he could cause some problems. But I'm going to say 2-1 West Ham, but it could go either way. And I definitely...
Ben Rama, by the way, that's your player to score the worldie. He scored 0 and 12.
Yeah.
For some reason, we've got like a rivalry with West Ham.
It does annoy me at times.
You can see Ben Rama scoring his first goal against Palace, and we do love to give people their first goal this season, as people have started to take notice.
The Benrahma as a rivalry is entertaining. Like, I think Palace fans can all see that Jerry Bowen is like a really good player, but I think with Benrahma and Eze, it's so back and forth on Twitter that if one of those players does score on Tuesday, it's going to be hectic on Twitter.
Yeah.
Eze is much better, realistically.
I would say Eze is the better player under the current circumstances, but whether that's an adjustment to the league thing or whatever, but I think I can't argue with Ben Rahman being not. He just hasn't been as effective as Eze has coming into the West Ham team in comparison to Eze coming into the Palace team. And I think the flashes of brilliance that Eze's shown with that goal that he scored, the solo one. I mean that's fantastic, and I've not seen Saeed Benrahma do anything to show that he could do that.
That free kick he scored.
Yeah, that's fantastic as well, obviously. So, I mean, Benrahma's been very good. Don't get me wrong. I'm pleased with the signing. I don't think he's been a flop as such because he's been fantastic in the games that we've played. But I don't think he's been as good as Eze has been this season.
Yeah, so Mike has gone 2-2. I've gone 2-1 Palace. You've gone 2-1 West Ham. So pretty even game, but
yeah. I was gonna say Benrahma. He's only played like 8 or 9 games. Also, I mean, started 8 or 9 games. So
yeah, I think so. Yeah,
it's tough to judge a player after they've only played probably less than 10
games.
So.
He's played two games in the cup against Stockport where he had a really poor game, and Doncaster away. He played well against Doncaster actually, but then again that's Doncaster. So
I had a poor game against Stockport though.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to put it down to the pitch. It was awful conditions. I'm not sure he's quite used to it. So, yeah, we'll put that one on the pitch.
Speaking of streamers, last season, I had the game-winning goal of both games against West Ham. I tweeted a few weeks ago that those 2 games are the only games Palace have come back from being down to win. And
1-0 down in both, and a late winner in both, scored by Jordan Ayew.
I remember I was at the West Ham game. I remember when obviously it started getting checked by VAR, and I remember just being sat there with my head in my hands because I knew he was gonna give me so much shit if that goal got given as it did, and then I got the shit which I presumed that was coming.
The second one was even better. Absolute worldie.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Yeah, we all remember. What was the first goal? The first winner.
It was the VAR one. It was like headed across by I think
Martin Kelly.
I thought it was Macca, maybe Kelly. It was headed back across goal, and then Jordan Ayew basically just like tapped it in.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
And it hit his shoulder was like just on the side.